Yeah, so we are rolling.
Oh, excellent.
And welcome back to Suspicious Minds. I am Burl.
And I'm Wade.
Was the last episode we did, was that Agent Elvis? Was that
we were talking about Agent Elvis, which definitely has a tie into today's topic. The life and death of Lisa Marie Presley and the current state of Graceland. Is that kind of a...
yeah, I think that would tie into it as well.
It's going to come up.
Yeah, it's going to come up, yeah, what's going to happen with Graceland. But yeah, I think we were both very saddened to hear about her, like you said, untimely passing back in January. And there was the thought of doing a special episode right then, but I think we both decided, well, let's just hold on and take some time and really kind of dig in and learn a little bit more about her and
also, wait for some sort of Rolling Stone feature article to be written about it so we can read it and summarize it.
Yeah, that also helps.
Which, I'm not going to do the research. I'm not going to call her friends and family, and we're trying to get the real story.
Yeah, right? We have assistants to do all that for us.
Sure, yeah. You kids do the legwork.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you're exactly right. I didn't want to have a knee-jerk opinion or speculation about what went down, because as we learned, as information comes out, some of it is surprising, some of it's not very surprising.
Correct. But I think ultimately, though, it's also, you don't want to be caught up in the spectacle of all of it and the tabloidization of it, the tabloid feel of putting out a show because of this. So we're doing it now instead.
Several months of speculation.
Right. Exactly. But not on our end. Neither one of us were speculating that much.
No. Just send me some articles to read. I'll read them.
Right, exactly. But no, I think the best way to kind of go about this, I think, is just talk about her life a little bit about her career in the music business. And yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen with Graceland and everything. So I guess to kind of start it off, I think most of this stuff people kind of know about her being born February 1st of 1968, which was, they always mention this whenever they mention her, that it was 9 months to the day after her parents got married, Priscilla and Elvis.
Very, very strange detail. I always thought it odd. I mean, I guess it's not a mystery of how that went down, but still, just Elvis, very potent sperm.
I'm guessing that might be it.
Because, it's not always easy to get pregnant.
Or Priscilla just has very potent eggs.
Yeah, or just an excellent combination of the two. But it's impressive getting the job done that quickly.
The weird thing is she was famous before she was born. And
of course.
The idea of Elvis Presley having a child, I can imagine just how that would have been handled in the papers. I mean, her birth would have been front page news.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very much like the closest we'll get to the American version of a royalty. The heir to this throne or whatever, to be spawned. So yeah, it is true. So to be famous before you're actually born, and then the subject of professional photo shoots as young as you could possibly imagine a kid. Everybody knows those famous photos of Elvis, Priscilla, and Lisa Marie. Elvis is wearing the powder blue number.
Right.
They're sitting in front of a cheetah curtain or something. I don't know what the hell they're sitting in front of.
Yeah, it's at the Jungle Room, is it? I don't think they're in the Jungle Room, but there's definitely animal prints and that kind of stuff.
Right. Like a Jungle Room vibe going on. Or I could totally be imagining that,
And then he has a cane in one of them, right? Doesn't he? Am I wrong about that?
You're not wrong. And yes, sunglasses in some of the shots. And if I'm not mistaken, a cigar.
I think there's so many shots of him smoking around his child that there's the home movie footage of him. I think they're in a golf cart or something. And Priscilla's just holding Lisa Marie in her lap while they're in a golf cart and he's smoking a cigar while they're driving around. So, back in the era where I think the adage was safety third.
Sure. Yeah. But once again, if you're new to this podcast, Elvis smoked pretty much his entire life. Mostly kept out of the public eye, but was a pretty dedicated smoker.
Yeah, we talked about Tarringtons. Was that his?
Yes, are Tarringtons, are they? They have
either or. Yeah, with the charcoal filter.
Yeah, and they're white filters. It's
Correct.
not the brown filters, right? Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
or more weird cigarettes that are all the brown.
Or all brown, yeah. Those are more like mini cigars.
I think that there's cigarettes that happen to look like cigars, but I don't think they're cigar-like. They're just weird. I think they're serial killer cigarettes. That's what they are.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, kind of off subject there, but I agree. I think that she grew up with this expectation of her being the heir to a kingdom, like a rock and roll kingdom sort of thing. So it had to have been a lot of pressure, probably unbeknownst to her at that point, but there was always a pressure on her to sort of become this musical prodigy or the continuation of a musical legacy.
Exactly. But also at the same time, she was a young girl who wielded unimaginable power. Elvis doted on her, and she really had the Memphis Mafia live in fear.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, all it took was a unkind word from Lisa Marie to Elvis to seriously consider your employment. And I think she wielded that power from a very early age.
Yeah, she definitely knew that she could get away with a lot of things, especially I think once her parents separated and she would just be there for a period of time. Elvis, of course, sleeping all day. She's up early and everybody's taking care of her, and it's just so she would kind of rule the roost, so to speak, while he was still sleeping.
Which can be kind of this quality in people that others admire, oh, they don't take no shit, or blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, it's really easy to be able to not take any shit if you could, afford to.
Right. Yeah.
If your behavior isn't dependent on your employment or your position in the world, it's relatively easy to have that attitude.
Agreed.
It's she doesn't suffer fools gladly. It's well, when would she have ever had to? It's not like Todd, who works the shake machine next to my, fry station, is giving me shit all day. It's not like that shit.
No, she never had to worry about any of that. Definitely a very, very privileged upbringing, for sure.
Absolutely. And also the pressure to be some sort of notable figure in some way. Also interesting is that the will left the Graceland estate in the care of 3 people, which was Vernon, and then it was that weird aunt.
Was it Minnie Mae? Is that who
Minnie
it was?
Mae, I believe it was. Yeah. And, of course, Vernon dies in 1979.
Right.
Minnie Mae dies in 1980. So she's basically 12 years old and the sole heir to the Graceland Empire.
Which then her mother is sort of running.
Right.
And opens it up to the public in 82, if memory serves.
I believe that's correct.
It's a whole lot. But she doesn't actually take possession of it until 25.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which, 25 years from 68, that's 93?
Yeah, 1993.
Because, it's very interesting because that's when, a lot of things started happening for Lisa Marie in, a very public way.
And I will say this, so Elvis passes away in 77, and she kind of disappears from the public eye. There's not a whole lot written about that time in her life, and I think we were talking about this off air a little bit. Kudos to her for kind of staying out of the public eye for that period of her life. And, just being able to, kind of have somewhat of a normal childhood, I'm thinking. I think she was out in LA with Priscilla, who I think was filming Dallas or something at the time.
Right. But there's no photos of a young Lisa Marie hanging out with Chrissy McNichol smoking cigarettes or anything.
Yeah, nothing like that at all. To my knowledge. There might have been. You never know. Something may surface here in the next few years.
It's her and Robbie Benson coming out of a club looking all bleary-eyed.
Her and Scott Baio going on dates. But to my knowledge, I believe she was kind of in and out of several schools until she was about 17, and then she drops out of school and she goes into rehab because she was on a 3-day coke binge, and her mother, Priscilla, just said, can't take it anymore, so took her to the rehab, but it's Scientology. Yeah,
the whole Scientology angle in the Presley family. Priscilla, we've talked about this already, right? She got recruited into Scientology 2 months after Elvis died. And the one who got her into it was John Travolta. And so I can only imagine Lisa Marie, she would have been 11 years old, wrapped up into the Scientology world, at least at that age.
For sure. Her and Priscilla were both heavily involved in Scientology. And that's also when she was in that rehab. So at 17, 18 years old, that's where she met her first husband.
Fellow Scientologist Danny Keough,
who she married in 1988. So right around her 20th birthday, gets married at that point. And that, that marriage lasted for, what, about 6 years? Something like that?
6 years, 88 to 94. They have 2 kids, one of which you probably know. What is it? Riley Keough. I would say fairly famous actress / model.
Yeah, she's an actress of note. I think she started off being sort of a fashion model, then moved into acting, and has definitely that little bit of that Presley smoldering good looks, as did her brother, who passed away in 2021.
Ben Keough, always a grim situation.
And that had a deep impact on Lisa Marie. And I know they even moved out of the house because she had a house in California where that happened, and they wound up moving out of that house because I'm assuming it would just be very hard to live there after that incident.
Right.
And wound up, I think, moving into another place not far away from there, but then renting until she passed.
Then, of course, Lisa Marie's second husband, somewhat more famous than Danny Keough.
Just a little bit. And also a musician you may or may not have heard of.
Reggie Jackson. Michael Jackson.
It was Michael Jackson, yeah. Who she married 20 days after she got divorced, I think.
To Danny Keough. And we could easily spend another hour of speculation about the marriage to Michael Jackson, like what it meant, why it happened, how it happened. Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions, tons of speculation.
Right. And I think that in itself was probably its own podcast, just that marriage.
Right.
And I think
it's its own episode.
Yeah, it's for sure its own episode. Maybe we will revisit at some point, but for the purpose of this, I think we'll just gloss over this a little bit and just say that they were married 2 years, but I don't know how much of that was together. Maybe 1 year of it. Then the second year, he probably went on tour and didn't call her. I don't know exactly how that worked, but...
Well, Michael Jackson's been married a couple times. Once again, this is its own episode, but can you just imagine, like, Michael Jackson and another person living in the same house at the same time, like sharing a bathroom or...
No, I can't.
Sleeping in the same bed, just like, I just can't picture it.
Yeah, he just seems like he lived on stage. I can't imagine him like having a bowl of soup. None of that seems like a thing he would do.
Right.
It was just he would moonwalk in and moonwalk out, and there was just a stage. I don't know. But I think it's because he performed basically from the time he was 5 or 6 years old until the time of his death. That's what he did.
Like all this candid stuff you see like Michael Jackson doing, like supposedly trying to be a normal person. He's like driving a golf cart full of like little children around, and he's wearing like some sort of paramilitary gear and mirrored aviators. It's like, it's not any kind of shit a normal person would do.
Just a quick aside, like his fascination with epaulets, like him just pushing that for, I think the only other person that picked up on that cue and then also wore them was Corey Feldman. And then that's it. And everybody else is like, no, we're good. We're good on those.
We could easily get another podcast episode out of that, but it would be like really hard to explain to people that today's episode of Suspicious Minds is all about Michael Jackson and Corey Feldman. Believe me, it all comes back to Elvis. But
yeah, but we'll figure it out how to get it back there, but it will.
Yeah, but that'll be like season 5. Married 4 times at all. Third marriage, Nicolas Cage.
Right, Nicolas Cage. And they were only married for, technically 100 days or something like that. They separated, but it took like a year and a half for their divorce to go through.
As it does.
Yeah, but the very, very volatile relationship between those two.
How do you feel about the Nicolas Cage?
I like Nicolas Cage. Once again, I can't imagine being married to that guy.
Yeah.
He also seems very, very intense.
Very much so. Yeah, it just like, even if you're married to him, it seems like you would only see each other like 3 hours a week.
He's also a guy who seems like he's constantly working. Even if it's on something that's not that great, he's going to work on it and give it 100%. And kudos to him. Like his IMDb page is like 6 miles long.
Yeah, it is. And I think, fortunately, he outlived the meme, which seemed like a few years ago, the whole idea about Nicolas Cage was like, he's a terrible actor who's in the worst movies. It was like, you know what the average internet idiot thought about Nicolas Cage. But I mean, what are they talking about? He's one of the finest actors America has ever produced.
Given the right vehicle, And especially early career stuff. He was in some
Oh,
really
yeah.
great movies. You know,
Yeah,
I think you
mean,
and I both have a soft spot for Vampire's Kiss.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. You know, if you were to think of the Nicolas Cage Mount Rushmore, it'd be kind of tough to put one together because, I mean, there's like so much good stuff there.
Yeah, that would be tough.
That's its own episode.
Also another episode, but of a different podcast.
Sure. It'd be Burl and Wade's Cage Cast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Cage Cast. But that marriage was kind of a whirlwind thing. But, you know, once again, she's young. She's incredibly wealthy. I'm sure she would say, like, she made a lot of mistakes. But that's okay. You know, you do that. But instead of, like, dating people, I think she just wanted the happy ever after thing. You know, instead of, like, dating for a little bit and then, you know, see if it works out, it was like you meet somebody and just immediately get married.
Right. And then all the while through all this, her and Daddy Keogh co-parent their children and always seemed to be on like really good terms through it all, which led once again a lot of speculation during the MJ marriage, like how cozy she seemed to be to her ex.
Right. And I think at one point she had a guest house on her property and he lived at the guest house.
But is less weird when you consider the whole co-parenting angle. Like either you're shuttling kids back and forth between houses all the time, or you like kind of figure something like that out.
And he played in her band. I know on the first two albums that she put out, I think he not only played in the band, I think toured with her as well.
Interesting. Guitar player, I assume?
Guitar, bass. I'm not sure what he played in her band, but I know he played several instruments, so could have played any of them. But I think he was either guitar or bass in her band.
Or electric drum.
Maybe he's guitar. Maybe he's on the guitar.
Guitar. Well, just like hearing about that, though, makes the music career seem a little bit more legit. That she's like playing with somebody that she was like married to and had known for years. I feel like the media should have played that up a little bit more. Anyway, to get to the last marriage here real quick. Speaking of sidemen or hired guns, in a band, she married one of them, a guy by the name of Michael Lockwood in 2006 and was married to him until 2021.
So her longest of the marriages.
Longest of the marriages. Had twins.
Very messy divorce.
Yeah, we can get into that. I just want to say a brief thing about like sidemen, hired guns, these professionals and backing up performers. Like, what am I talking about here? Like, you watch like Saturday Night Live and you see like Avril Lavigne because you're watching a rerun from like 18 years ago. But you look at the members of the band backing her up, and it's always these dudes from Nashville. These Nashville session players, and whatever, they're all killers. They're all absolutely amazing players. But when they get these sidemen gigs, they all do like one of two things. They'll either get a bunch of Ed Hardy shit and like a faux hawk, and they're on stage rocking out like this is the most amazing music ever made by humans. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be playing this music. That kind of professional hired gun face, which sometimes it's a good thing because you look at the JBs, the old James Brown backup band, and you see that with those guys a lot. They're on stage and it's like, I can't believe how good this song it is right now that we're playing. They're all giving each other like looks of astonishment while they're like playing the song. This is what the guys that's always backing up Lisa Marie. And whatever, it worked in James Brown because, the music they were playing was amazing. But it's like these 36-year-old dudes with faux hawks playing SNL, backing up Avril Lavigne, and acting like it's the most amazing music they've ever played. It's like, they're not really feeling that shit.
No, they're feeling the paycheck, though.
They're feeling the paycheck, whatever. It's a valid career in music. Far be it for me to criticize those people. But yeah, she married one of these dudes, Michael Lockwood. I was going to say the other way you can go to it is like look like a discount Tom Petty looking ass.
Oh, which is him. Yeah.
Yeah, which is him.
Yeah.
Like the top hat and the little glasses, and it's like, dude.
Yeah, it's not the best look. And the weird, like, scarecrow hair. Not quite shoulder length, but it's kind of bleached and it's kind of like choppy looking.
It's just the guys on stage that are always going the hardest. You could always be sure that they're the hired help because you get somebody who's like actually in a real band doing stuff. They look like The Edge, which looks like they're like doing their homework on stage, not smiling.
Well, they've been doing it for a long time. It's like it's 20 years in. So it's just like a lot of the shine has come off of it.
But with this as a segue from her final husband to the music career of Lisa Marie.
Right. I mean, it was a long time coming, for somebody who has the pedigree that she had. And her first album didn't come out until, was it 2004 or
2003.
2003. Yeah, To Whom It May Concern, that was her first album. So she's 35 when that came out.
Which, once again, in prep for this episode, we had to, or we didn't have to, nobody tells us what to do, but we chose to revisit some of the Lisa Marie Presley music catalog to varying degrees of
enjoyment.
Yeah. No, not poking fun. Yeah. I mean, it's an easy joke. But yeah, just right from the start, the first album, To Whom It May Concern, it's just so super self-conscious. To me, it's like, and a lot of people disagree with me, you got Nirvana's follow-up record to Nevermind, In Utero, and just the opening line, teenage angst has paid off well. And for me, it's just like, all right, well, I'm out now because you blew it. Yeah, it just like when you're singing songs about fame and disillusionment with all that. And that's just kind of like she came in real hot with that, with the first album.
Right. But here's the thing. She did write the majority of the songs on that album, right? Or did she write all of them on that one?
I believe every lyric she wrote.
I mean, that's a far cry more than her father ever did. He was not a lyricist. So kudos to her for that. But, and you got to write what you know. That's what they say, right? I mean, what has she ever known? So. Nothing but stardom. But here's the thing I kind of got from, especially the first two albums, I guess I'll say, is like, it was like chasing a sound instead of creating a sound. So it just kind of sounded like other stuff. The first album, I think it was like, it's like if Gwen Stefani was singing for the Foo Fighters. Yeah. That's kind of what I got from it. And obviously there are going to be so many people that make these comparisons to her and her dad. But I think what it really kind of boiled down to for me is like early in his career, I think you knew that Elvis was always thinking, man, if I put out a bad record, I'm going back to driving a truck. And that could have happened to him up until, probably the early 60s or something like that. He was going to have to find something else to do to make money. Lisa Marie didn't have any of that. And I think it's why she could wait until she was 35. And also, by the time you're 35, your generation has kind of found their music. So It's like she's kind of making music at that age for people that are 10 to 15 years younger than her. But she didn't have any of that build-up where, like, she's getting a following. So there are the 2 or 3 albums before that, and it's like, okay, now she's got this one that kind of hits big or anything. So, I don't know. The first 2 albums don't do a whole lot for me. The weird thing is, she has a long hiatus from it, and then she puts one out called Storm and Grace, which originally, by the title, I thought it was a tribute album to Will and Grace. I'm kidding. But I will say this, it's the best of the 3. I don't think I'd ever listened to it. I'd heard music from the first 2 albums, but kind of around the time they came out. And this one I listened to was like, this is actually pretty good. I don't know if you have the same feeling about that.
Yeah, I did, because I'm just like watching clips on YouTube pretty much interchangeably. It's really hard for me to say like what was on the first record and the second record, because they came out relatively back to back. I mean, 03 and 05. So pretty quick succession and very much like similar vibe on both of them. And I saw some Storm and Grace stuff, which is mainly like a pretty moody music video for a song I don't remember the title of. And also her and the band recorded a session actually at Sun Studio. Like the whole band set up in like real dead ass Sun Studio. But it's very much kind of more like Americana, mandolins and shit type of thing going on.
Right. And well, it's produced by T-Bone Burnett. So I think if you're bringing him in, that's kind of what you're going to get. But I think maybe he kind of brought something out of her in her music that she didn't really know was in there and helped her find a voice that, like I said, I don't think that she had found before, but it kind of sounds like her music at that point. I guess that's what I like about it.
So Storm and Grace comes out when she's 44, and it just sounds way more age appropriate. I mean, one thinks that maybe she should have started out with stuff like this.
I don't think that she would have done it, though. Because I think in her mind, she wanted something that was commercially viable, so that they would make another album with her. And I don't know if that sound at that time would have worked.
Right. With the first album, she's like, this isn't Emmylou Harris. This is Papa Roach.
Right. And the other thing I was going to say is on this album, she was writing with co-writers on a lot of them. So, I mean, she had, what's the guy's, is it Sasha Skarbek, I think? He wrote Miley Cyrus' Wrecking Ball. That kind of stuff. Yeah. All right. James Blunt's You're Beautiful. That kind of stuff. So he did that kind of. Yeah, and then one of the guys from the band Travis. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're like Scottish. And then what's also weird is that she also wrote with this guy who I had mentioned earlier in an earlier show when we were talking about who you'd like to hear Elvis collaborate with. I brought up a guy named Richard Hawley that I like, Hawley, who was in a band called Pulp. He was one of the writers on this album, unbeknownst to me. But it was really strange that his name would pop up on that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But I can see it. He's a big fan of like the older, especially this kind of sound of music, like that T-Bone Burnett kind of thing, and older blues, like American blues and that kind of stuff. So anyway, this album, Storm and Grace, I would say check it out. It's actually, if you have not listened to it, give it a spin. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a couple of them from that one. It's really kind of a shame with her discography, and this is like really random happenstance, that she doesn't have at least one signature song, one song that kind of like really crossed over and everybody knows.
Right.
Yeah,
she didn't have, I don't think she had anything that was a big hit.
Right. She just as easily in this era could have had like a Since You've Been Gone or something. And it's like, oh, well, she'll always have that song. I mean, as it is, it's a pretty anonymous discography. She should have worked with some Swedes, like Max Martin.
Just anybody in the band ABBA.
I mean, I worship ABBA. It's not funny to me at all.
But they know how to write hits, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah. Catherine McPhee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She could have worked with her. That woman knew how to write a song.
Sure. I saw a clip right around when the first album came out. She's doing like one of those weird-ass VH1 shows, VH1 Divas, which whatever. I mean, everybody they always had on the show was great, and it would be live music on TV, and you can't hate that. But it was like one of those weird package deals where Lisa Marie is playing this live concert and she's doing the Pat Benatar song Heartbreaker. And then, like, of course, a third of the way through the song, Pat Benatar comes out and turns into like a duet. And
she didn't like beat her up and tell her like, stop singing my song. This is my song.
She runs out with a chair.
Yeah. And then takes over the song. Yeah.
Right. Which, I mean, it's the vocal equivalent of that when she walks out. Because, I'm going to say it right now, popular opinion, I guess, or maybe not, Pat Benatar, one of the all-time greats.
She is one of the all-time greats. But I guess Lisa Marie, that was in her set for a long time. She would sing that song.
Yeah, I think pretty much. Well, we should talk about that. Cover songs of Lisa Marie.
She did Dirty Laundry by Don Henley.
She did that one.
Yeah.
And one that I never heard of before 2 nights ago, where I randomly found it on YouTube, Lisa Marie singing Blue Oyster Cult's Burning for You.
Yeah.
Or is that a burnin' with the apostrophe?
I don't know I don't know if they dropped the G on that. Was that on her second album?
It was not released on any of the albums. It was released as like a B-side of a single or something.
Okay, gotcha. So it'd be like a deluxe edition.
Part of the Lisa Marie Presley box set. But you listen to it, I tell you what, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those things, most people, they just kind of glossed over her career, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just, what you knew about her, which is daughter of Elvis. You knew about the spectacle of her marriage to Michael Jackson and a couple other things, but she didn't do a lot of interviews. There was a couple things, to promote albums, but until this Elvis movie came out, she'd been pretty quiet for years, the better part of a decade. I mean, I think she still toured occasionally, but I don't know the last time she'd been out on a tour.
I could see her doing some sort of scuzzball, like Viper Room sets in like Los Angeles.
Sure.
But not like I was seeking it out, but I hadn't heard of anything.
And I think you and I have kind of talked about it a little bit as well. I can remember while living in Chicago, seeing her name come up playing like something like, let's say, the House of Blues, and sorry to say it, I didn't have a lot of interest in going to see it. And I think mostly because I think the people that would have gone to those shows probably were just people that are really big fans of Elvis and maybe not big fans of her in a way. So it's like you're just seeing like this legacy thing. I don't know. Maybe that's why I didn't want to go see it, but it just didn't appeal to me to go.
My mom, actually, I should bring this up. Hey, Mom, if you're listening, I'm going to talk about it. She went to go see Lisa Marie Presley at the Illinois State Fair.
Very nice. Did she have anything good to say about that experience, or?
I believe she said it was a great show, and she took several photos, which my mom, bless her heart, queen of the track tickets at Illinois State Fair. She's probably seen 6 shows standing in the dirt track right below the stage of the State Fair, where the true fans really see shows.
That's where they go. Fair. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Those were always the tickets to get there, right?
Did you go see Earth, Wind, and Fire with me at the Illinois State Fair?
I might have. And I guarantee if we went, the first stop, though, is always, if you go to the Illinois State Fair, it's you got to go see the Butter Cow.
Yeah, well, it's on the way if you go through the front gate.
Well, it's a nice place to cool off because it's just exhaustingly hot that time of year.
Get a lemon shake-up.
I mean, obviously, if you're going to stand on the track and watch a thing, you're drinking an ice cold, probably Anheuser-Busch product, I'm guessing. I don't know what they sell there.
Buttermiller.
Yeah, Buttermiller. I think it's unfortunate, and maybe it's a failing on my end, having had very little interest in her career as a musician. But I've heard tracks from the first 2 albums. I think that's why I had diminishing interest by the time her 3rd album came out. And it wasn't like she was like putting out albums all the time. And honestly, the other thing was, it's not like she needed the money, right? It's not like, if I don't buy these tickets, she's going to stop putting out albums.
Right. Well, I mean, you hear stories, though. She was always a big spender. I mean, of course, growing up like that, how could you not be? I think Graceland obviously provides a lot of income. Also requires a lot of upkeep and running costs. I mean, there's profit, but I really don't think you can spend money like you have an unlimited supply. I don't care like how much you're bringing in a year. And I just really do think that the music career was a bit of a Hail Mary pass to provide like a secondary source of income.
Sure. And also probably a sense of purpose, too. I mean,
sure, exactly. I mean, right.
You got to figure like, you can't just sit around and spend your daddy's money all day. I mean, I guess you can, but I think anybody who's here, they got stuff they want to do. Which kind of brings up, speaking of all that stuff, like we said, she was sort of quiet after that 3rd album came out for a while. And then with the advent of this Elvis movie that came out, I mean, this is like the first time you're seeing her in the better part of a decade. And she's back in the public eye. And I think as anyone, especially in Hollywood or whatever, you're dealing with all this kind of stuff, you want to look your best. And I think the way that she went about that is she had bariatric surgery, I think, during this whole process. And she dropped a lot of weight, or at least to some degree of, I don't know how much she had to lose, but several pounds. Because she was very tiny. She was very petite. I think she was like 5'2", something like that, 5'1", maybe.
Well, I think the Presleys, at least a couple of generations, always struggled with their weight. That seems to be like genetically built into them, which, you had Gladys, who definitely put on a lot of weight towards the end and really got herself in such an unhealthy situation that, she died like relatively young,
she was
46.
46, something like that, yeah.
And, of course, everybody knows Elvis and his struggles with his appetites and with his addictions and whatnot. And obviously, burning yourself out by 42.
And I will say this. I think her last public appearance, was at the Golden Globes, correct? It was like 2 days before.
It was.
2 days before she passed. And I'm going to say she did not look great. She looked very thin. And not to say it looked like something bad was going to happen or anything like that, but she just looked like she might have been ill or not feeling good or something. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a tragedy. 54.
Yeah, she looked really wobbly and gray, just ashen.
Yeah.
It's a very sad state of affairs. Was there with Priscilla, who we haven't talked a whole lot about in this episode, other than the fact that she got Lisa Marie into Scientology when she was a young girl. It should be noted that Lisa Marie left Scientology in the year 2012, the same year she put out the Storm and Grace album. One wonders if there's like some sort of connection there.
Could be. Yeah.
Left the state of Graceland in kind of a messy situation.
Because now it goes to her daughters, her 3 daughters.
Yes, the 3 surviving children. I believe Riley Keough is the main heir that we're talking about here, whom I guess they've all had a pretty difficult relationship with Priscilla, which one could kind of understand it in that Priscilla really was instrumental in turning the Graceland property around from being just like this large house that's sort of a curiosity to like a major like tourist attraction. But she was never an heir to the fortune. She was just like on the board of directors or whatever.
But, you know, and it has been compensated for that. But I think in her mind, she's probably feels entitled to more of it than she was given. I mean, obviously she wasn't given any of it, but just to draw a salary from it. And obviously she's providing to some extent providing for her daughter in that way. She was instrumental in making all these things happen. So I can see how giving up the reins to it or whatever, it'd be a messy situation at best. And maybe not liking the way that it was run and probably really hating Lisa Marie's spending habits.
Yeah, and of course, you know, drug habits and whatnot. So the main problem, like after Lisa Marie died, was that Priscilla was laying claim to some part of the estate. It should be also noted that Lisa Marie sold off 85% of the shares of Elvis Presley Enterprises in 2006, I think.
Yeah, to get her out of like some just horrible...
just crushing debt. Yeah, so there's that. But Priscilla contesting the will, saying that there's all these like fishy things with the will and that the signature didn't look right and there weren't like any witnesses and like blah, blah, blah. You know, just basically thinking that Graceland should go to her. Or at least she'd be like cut in on a share of it, which she wasn't.
There was some sort of settlement, though, right?
There has been a settlement. The battle has ended in some sort of financial compensation. It sounded like an adult explaining these things. I don't have the information in front of me.
What we know is that her daughters are going to inherit it. Priscilla was contesting some of those things and has since settled outside of court or whatever. I don't know if it was outside of court, but they settled that dispute. The most important thing is that they kind of worked out what's going to happen with Graceland. Because I think what it all kind of comes back to, and I think that our show is obviously saddened about the loss of Lisa Marie, but I think something that she kind of discovered, or probably knew this whole time, is that part of the reason she's here is to help keep the legacy of her father alive, right? Which is what she was doing. It's the reason Graceland exists in the way it does, and the reason that the movie about Elvis came out, and how her and Priscilla and this, you know, Austin Butler and Baz Luhrmann. But I think they were all instrumental in making that movie happen. And it's all about continuing the legacy. It's what we're doing here.
You know, everyone's always saying like, oh, you know, Elvis fans, they're dying off and there's nobody there to replace them. But I don't think it'll ever die. I think it continues on. There's always going to be that interest.
I think there's something really fascinating about the guy. And his daughter as well. She also had kind of a fascinating life as well. And obviously we're talking about it here. And especially back in the 90s, I think the big things would have been like, you know, the marriage to Michael Jackson and Nicolas Cage. Maybe to a lesser extent, her music career, which I think probably irked her. You know, that wasn't the thing people wanted to talk about. But maybe some lifestyle choices and spending habits and whatnot. But.
Sure. There was a segment I watched on YouTube this week that made her seem very endearing. It was her first appearance on Late Show with David Letterman, because this would have been promoting the first album. And she just comes across like really well in the interview. And you can tell she hasn't really done hardly any of these, you know, like late night talk shows. So she's very disarmingly real in the interview.
Yeah, and she seems like genuinely nervous. Yeah, I agree. I watched the Oprah interview with her.
Oh, sure.
Which would have been, I think, 2005. I think it was the second album. And I kind of got the same impression that she's just very earnest and real down to earth. And somebody you'd want to hang around.
Yeah, a fun hang. I also watched her on Conan O'Brien, but of course, like all Conan O'Brien interviews, it becomes all about Conan.
Yeah, about his hair and the string dance and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little nervous, Conan. And it's like, oh, I felt nervous before. One time in high school, you know, I wore these pants. And it's like, we're not talking about you, bud. Jesus Christ. How many years are you going to do this?
All of them. every single one of those years. Yeah. That's all right. They had really good segments on that show. So
Sure. He did. And, God damn it, I was going to talk about Agent Elvis again briefly.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, our last episode was about Agent Elvis. By all accounts, Lisa Marie absolutely hated the show.
With good reason.
With good reason. And it was because of her, it was not seen for 2 years. I think she had veto power over it coming out. And wouldn't you know it, Lisa Marie dies. 2 months later, the show debuts on Netflix.
The animated aberration that it is, yeah.
End of the first episode, big title card, block letters, dedicated to the memory of Lisa Marie Presley.
Yeah,
it's
might
just
as well
like
just
Priscilla's,
throw both middle fingers, yeah.
A middle finger from beyond the grave. Jesus Christ, Priscilla. Anyway, yeah, very grim.
So I think that kind of wraps up that part of the show, and we do have some things to get to, which is, of course, a couple of our segments, which I think you're going to start us off with the Wade back machine, correct, Wade?
That is correct. I've got a good one for you tonight, folks. But before we get started, a word or two from our sponsor for tonight's show, Sloppy Hathaway's Old Time Movie Shack, where physical copies are still king and queen. You name it, we got it. We got all the formats you like: VHS, Beta, Laserdisc, Video Disc, High 8. Is that a format?
I think that's my nickname in high school.
We will put something on a thumb drive for you. We could do that. Sure. Name it, we got it. Sir, what would you like?
You know that Donald Sutherland, you got a dry white season on Criterion Laserdisc?
Yes, we do.
Awesome.
And sir, what would you like?
You got a 16mm print of Agnes the God?
Of course we do. Right this way. That is Sloppy Hathaway's Old Time Movie Shack, next to the AutoZone.
I'd go to that place. I'd go to that place in a heartbeat. Yep.
Yeah, me too. So, the Wade back machine, are we doing that? Yeah, let's do it. Tonight's Wade back machine goes all the way back to February 1st, 1968, the birth date of Lisa Marie Presley. This is the world she was born into. The number one song in the country, I love it. It's the Lemon Pipers with Green Tambourine.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
That's a good one. I always thought that it was a real missed opportunity that never appeared in an Austin Powers movie.
You know, here's the thing. I think they're making another one of those. So
yeah, they could. Yeah. Or maybe that song never was a big hit in Canada, so Mike Myers doesn't know about it.
That could also be true. Yeah, I didn't get American radio growing up.
Yeah. Another big hit in February 68, Chain of Fools by Aretha. Classic. I love it. Also a big hit, Woman, Woman from Gary Puckett and Union Gap.
The Union Gap. Nice.
And another one, Jesus Christ, this song, Judy in Disguise with Glasses. The only reason I wrote it down because the name of the band is John Fred and his Playboy Band. I mean, you know the song, but I never knew the name of the artist.
Yeah, I didn't know the name of the artist. That's funny.
Yeah. Awful song.
Not good.
Number one movie in the country, February 68, Planet of the Apes. Also a big hit at the time was Sergeant Riker, featuring Lee Marvin. Shout out Eric Voss if you're listening.
He would love that one. He'd be a big fan. He'd definitely check that one out.
Also, February 68 in the world of film is notable as the debut of a film called Eat Your Makeup, which was a directorial debut of John Waters.
I've never seen that one. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it either. It's a 45-minute black and white film that played in Baltimore and just a few theaters. Never got a national release. 45-minute film. God only knows what John Waters was up to in 68. I'm sure it's just mortifying.
I wonder if Sloppy Hathaways would have that.
I'm sure they do. In the world of TV, February 68 is the debut of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And in the world of literature, I thought this was interesting. Arthur C. Clarke released 2001: A Space Odyssey, an adaptation of the film that he wrote, which is odd because the film itself was based on a short story that he wrote called The Sentinel. So he's adapting someone else's adaptation of his own work.
We're really through the looking glass on this one, aren't we?
And also, I thought interesting was it also saw the debut of Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Hey, there you go. A little Blade Runner.
which, became the film Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And similarly, Philip K. Dick was offered the job of adapting the Blade Runner film to a novel, which would have been the exact same situation that Arthur C. Clarke did with the 2001 A Space Odyssey novel.
Yeah, it's like that M.C. Escher picture of like the hand drawing the hand kind of thing. It's like, what's going on there? Yeah.
Adapt the adaptation of your work, which he declined. And then he died shortly thereafter. But
because he probably realized how much money he blew or didn't get or missed opportunity, right?
I think he probably died of acute alcoholism or something.
Probably. I think that's all those writers at the time. That's all they did, right? Just
I'm not even going to look it up. I'm just going to assume.
Yeah, with no reason to know. I think we know what we need to know.
Right. This is an Elvis podcast, not a Philip K. Dick podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that one. Do Wade and Burl dream of electric writers or something? Yeah, was that it? Or did you close up the...
Yeah, I'm going to cinch up the sack on the old Wade-back machine.
All right.
Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, cinch it up. Yeah, zip it back up.
The Wade-back machine goes into like one of those fabric cases that you used to put like a pack of cigarettes into, and there's that clasp on top.
Oh, yeah. There you go. That's exactly what it should be.
The side pocket with a lighter goes in.
Yeah, there you go. Would it be a Bic or would you go Zippo?
If I'm carrying around one of those cigarette cases, it would definitely be like a Bic.
Do you have a preferred color? You're like a white, black, or do you like something bright so you can find it?
It doesn't matter. I just peel off the whole sticker anyway.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Like a maniac.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I tell you what, now that we buttoned up with the Wade-back machine, you know what that means?
What's next?
It's time for Would You Believe?
God damn it.
I know. This is your favorite segment.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So we got a couple things, all Lisa Marie inspired. So as a kid, would you believe that Elvis used to have Lisa Marie have slumber parties on the Lisa Marie plane, on the jet? Would you believe?
I am going to say I do not believe that one.
That's right. You're correct. That is false.
Okay, good. Because I was thinking, like, would the plane be flying?
It doesn't matter now, but I mean, had you asked, I would have said no. They would just go out. You know how like he flew out and they had like dinner and stuff. It's like one of those things. But or he would just have her. I guess I don't know. I don't know how I would have lied about that. Like just have her have a friend and then they're gonna fly to like Denver to pick up sandwiches or whatever, and just put on your PJs. I think Elvis spent like 90% of the 70s at that navy blue robe and stuff, right? All right, so we talked a little bit about the Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie marriage. But would you believe that they spent their honeymoon at none other than Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago? Would you believe?
You know what? I do believe that.
That's right. It's absolutely true. And then Donald Trump gave a press conference about it.
So creepy.
I know, right? Very strange that that's where you would want to do that stuff. So here we go. Another one for you. It's well known that Elvis Presley was a huge karate fan. Big fan. Practiced karate for years and years. Lisa Marie was also a black belt in karate. Would you believe?
I feel like I would have heard that already, but yeah, sure. She was.
Yeah, that's true. You got it. Man, you're doing good on these.
Oh, wow. Am I 3 for 3?
Yeah. She studied with Billy Blanks.
Oh, I'll be good.
I don't know if he was karate. Does he do karate? I thought he was just like a weird screaming fitness guy.
Well, there's like some sort of like martial arts discipline in there somewhere. Yeah, I think it's karate. Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Elvis, very well known for giving people pet names, that sort of stuff. I think he had a really weird one for Priscilla that's kind of eluding me right now. But one of his favorite pet name for Lisa Marie was Buttonhead. Would you believe?
I'm going to say I do believe that.
Yeah, also true. That's also true.
Wow, 4 for 4. All right.
So far, yeah. All right. So, Elvis famously loved peanut butter sandwiches. Usually peanut butter and banana, all that kind of stuff. But peanut butter in general, very well known. We did a whole show about the fact that guy loved peanut butter. Lisa Marie hated peanut butter. Did not like it at all. Would you believe?
I am going to say I do not believe that.
You're right. That is false. I made that up.
Oh, all right.
But one side note, she claims she never ever saw him eat a peanut butter and banana sandwich. But, you know, she was probably only around because, you know, he would eat the same thing for like weeks and weeks on end, right? Might just have been off the menu when she was there. I don't know. Hard to say. Anyway, good job on all these. Okay.
Wow.
So here's the last one. This goes back to Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie. The first time that they ever met was actually in 1975 backstage at a Jackson 5 concert at the Sahara in Las Vegas. Would you believe?
I am going to believe that.
That's also true. Wow, man.
Wow.
Batting 1,000 on this one.
Wow.
You got every one of those
right.
right. That's a first.
Man. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's probably like a less entertaining segment because it's more entertaining when you make me look like a jerk.
Well, I will say this. There's so little about her that it's like a couple of them I did make up, but it's kind of like grasping at straws. Because the weird thing is with Elvis, so many things are just crazy about his life. But not knowing anything about her, it's like all the crazy stuff. Like, okay, well, you kind of already know all the crazy stuff.
Right.
Maybe I just didn't put enough work into it or sold them a little differently. I think you're just getting too wise to my ways. I think that's what
Yeah. I'm finally figuring out the pattern.
my sleight of hand.
Did you watch any of the Lisa Marie funeral?
I did. Not the whole thing. I watched part of it, though. I think I saw Jerry Schilling. I know I saw... Oh, Axl Rose was there, and I think he did a song.
He did November Rain.
That was it. And, yeah, I'm trying to remember what else.
Billy Corgan was there?
Yeah, Billy Corgan was there.
Let me ask you this. If any member of KISS would have attended, which one do you think it would have been?
Who was probably the biggest Elvis fan of all of them? Part of me wants to say it was probably Ace.
Though, if any of them were going to be at the funeral, somehow I imagine like Peter Criss being the most likely.
For some reason, I would disagree. I would say it would be Gene.
Yeah. Well, Gene was probably the biggest Elvis fan of the members.
Yeah, maybe
of
he
KISS.
was, yeah. So I would say Gene. Gene would be the one member of KISS I think that would have gone. I don't think Paul would have gone. I bet he like won't go to a funeral. Like he probably won't even go to his own.
He'll outlive us all.
Pretty much. He'll just like disappear into like light. Like, you know, just like beam off the planet. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Or there'll be like a weird zip line thing. Just like, see you on the sun. And he just zip lines off the planet. That's probably what's going to happen.
Right. You know, like says to the sun, like, you've been looking at me all my life. Now it's time for me to look at you.
Yeah. I hear a lot of you people out there like the afterlife. And then just... or somebody like purgatory.
Another KISS-related question. If Lisa Marie were to cover a KISS song, what would be the song?
Well, you know what I'd want to hear her do? 100,000 Years.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. A real
Because there's a lyric in it that always cracks me up. It says, I'm just about to ooh yeah. That's one of the lyrics in it that just always... maybe it's just Paul's delivery of it cracks me up. But I don't know. That one's good. Maybe I like the bass line at the beginning of it. It's pretty good.
Sure.
How about you? What do you think you should cover?
I'd probably do Black Diamond.
Yeah, she could sell that one. That'd be a good one. God of Thunder?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, we don't have to agree on these.
Sure. But, you know, of course, all like classic KISS material, not like...
Or let's put the X in sex.
Tears Are Falling. That's a good
Tears
one.
Are Falling. Yeah, like post makeup KISS, anything like that. Yeah, the era everybody loves.
I have a feeling that era is like kind of primed for a rediscovery by young people.
You say that, and then I think you're probably wrong. I would not believe that.
Kids are into some whack shit, man. You know, like acid wash jeans all of a sudden.
That's got kind of its own deal, though. I don't know. Well, maybe. Who knows? I'll believe just about anything anymore. So,
right.
Well, I don't know. I guess we should probably button up this episode. Let's get out of this one. And then I will say this. This is the penultimate episode of the season. So we got...
Oh, that's right.
We got one more coming up after this. We got a little bit of a surprise, but if it doesn't happen, I don't want to say what the surprise is. It could just be what we're covering as the surprise in case we can't make the other thing happen. But we have something we think is going to be a lot of fun for the season finale. So I guess we should probably wrap this one up. A couple of things to go over with you. You know, if you do want to get in touch with us, you can always do that by emailing us at suspiciousmindspodcast77@gmail.com. Or if that is just way too much for you to type, it's way too much for me to say, you could call and leave a message or text us if you're not into leaving messages or you don't like the sound of your own voice, something like that. You can do one of those at the Suspicious Minds hotline, which is 773-389-4276. And how else can they find us on like the social media, Wade?
You could always look us up on Facebook if you're feeling like it. We're at Suspicious Minds Podcast with Wade and Burl. Not a whole lot going on over there. Maybe you can change that for us. But the real fun, where all the cool kids hang out, that's Suspicious Minds Podcast on Instagram, where it's always a lot of fun stuff going on, a lot of photos, a lot of lively discussions, just shenanigans and hoopla and whatnot. So we're about to relaunch a much more significant campaign on both of those fronts with the release of Season 2, which is kind of ridiculous to talk about now because by the time you hear this episode, it would have happened a long time ago. But
yeah, maybe a year.
Yeah. So who knows? Time is a flat circle, so...
Do you feel like Facebook is now sort of like the rotary dial of social media?
A lot of old folks and a lot of boomers on there doing weird boomer shit.
Yeah. Have they changed the font size just like across the board to like the really big font size now?
Yeah.
Just so everybody can read it if they can't find their bifocals.
Right.
Yeah, so what's happening over there?
Actually, everything you post comes with a Minions emoji afterwards. You have to actually like go in and manually turn that off unless...
just like use an eraser.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Was there anything else you want to cover before we got out of this episode?
As always, please look up Elvis Book Club as made by our really good friends Brad and Pat.
Yep, absolutely.
Or is it Pat and Brad?
I think it is Pat and Brad. Elvis Book Club with Pat and Brad.
It's a lot of fun. They're on Spotify. They're on YouTube. We should get on YouTube.
We should, we should do that. Maybe we'll do this for this next season at some point.
Yeah.
We got to come up with a visual thing to put on there. I guess we don't really. I guess we can just put our logo up there. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll look into it.
We're on iTunes, right? Probably.
We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on all those things. If they're listening to this, you probably already know those things, though.
Right.
Unless we just put this on a thumb drive and mailed it to you. Then we need to get that back because we got to send it to somebody else now.
Or I held up a Radio Shack microphone to a speaker to be recorded on the audio cassette and then mailed to my dad.
Which is probably, what does it get, the 120s, the Maxwell 120-minute tape?
Oh, yeah, nothing but the best.
Yep, those are nice.
Yeah.
Was it on high bias, just to put that on high bias?
Yeah. Spare no expense.
Yeah, okay. Well, good. All right. Once again, thank you so much for listening to the episode. I have been Burl.
And I'm always Wade.
And we will catch you next time.
Keep taking care of business. I don't know.
All right. That's enough of that.
Thank you. Good night.